Hello, everybody. Welcome to season two of American Sports Broadcasters. I am Kenyon Hood along with Brian Kirkeback here. We got some good things coming up for you this season. We got some new mics to improve the sound quality. We're trying out some new video software. And, we're trying to do things that we think maybe you're going to like a little more. We're going to try to keep the videos a little shorter because we heard that was a problem for you. We're going to try to mark which sections, like in the description, we're going to try to mark when we talk about which sports. And Brian, what else are we going to do?
We're thinking about maybe trying to get some interviews this year with some athletes. Who knows? Maybe some Nebraska coaches, possibly. Maybe looking at doing some game day feeds from Nebraska football before games. So we're really trying to make this, more interesting and more towards our audience. So we encourage you to comment on the videos for anything that you want us to talk about or anything you want us to change. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. All right, so I think we should start in baseball, and we'll go ahead and start with the National League. So right now in the East, we have the Nationals on top, and they've been on top most of the season. It's just been the same old thing. Good pitching, good hitting, been doing good. The Marlins are in distant second, 7 games back. Braves are still dead last in the East. Just a sad team this year.
That's one word for it.
Yeah. In the Central, the Cubs are still leading the Central, and they're just doing phenomenal. Good bats, good young talent. Maybe this is the Cubs' year. Cardinals are in second, 13 and a half games back. But Cardinals are faring well in the wild card race, so that is good for them. In the West, you have the Dodgers leading in the West with my breakout choice for this season. The Rockies are 11 games back. It has hurt me a little bit, but in the wild card race, they're only 8 games back. Still got a chance to come back, but the National League really hasn't changed too much. Just the fact that the only other thing is the Giants. People always, have been looking at the Giants even years. They win the World Series, but they are on a 4-game skid right now. Not looking too good for them. Nothing they can't rebound from. They are only 2 games back in the West and leading in the wild card race. So nothing they can't bounce back from, but maybe this just isn't their year.
Well, in baseball, especially even in August, a 4-game losing streak isn't always as bad as it seems. So they definitely have an opportunity to come back. Let's transfer over to the American League now. We'll start you off in the American League West. We got Texas on top, and then quite a ways behind them, we got Seattle. Houston, my pick, is in third place right now, just a little behind Seattle. So Texas is 74-53, Seattle 67-59, and Houston is 66-61. At one point, Houston was in second place. They really got hot coming out of the All-Star break. They've kind of cooled off a little bit. So hopefully for me, they kind of pick up a little bit and get to the postseason. And then after the postseason, hopefully they lose to my Royals. But we'll get to there in a little bit. In the American League Central, we got Cleveland Indians right now sitting 72-53 on top. Then you have the Detroit Tigers at 67-59. And then the Royals are in third place right now, about 6 or 7 games back from the wild card, and they are at 65-61. But they discovered a little green bug called the rally mantis a few weeks ago, and ever since rally mantis won, there's something like was it 12 out of the last 15 games that they've won. They had a 9-game win streak going. Then sadly, rally mantis passed, and then they found a new rally mantis, and rally mantis Jr. So they've won 9 out of their last 10. They're making a push for it. Don't count them out yet. Surprisingly, the Chicago White Sox, they were like white hot at the start of the season, and now they're in fourth place at 60-65. The Twins in last place, just abysmal 49-77. Take to the American League East. We got Boston Red Sox and the Toronto Blue Jays are both tied for first at 71-55. Then we got the power hitting Baltimore Orioles in third place at 70 and 56. So right behind him, tight competition in the American League East. Still very much anybody's anybody's conference except for well Tampa Bay because they're 53 and 72. So not much chance left for them, but still a lot of baseball left. We'll see how it all shakes
Right,
out.
and I think something we need to highlight in the East is the good thing is the Yankees are in fourth. And I think the other thing we need to cover just a little bit, I know this was a while back, is Alex Rodriguez is no longer playing for the Yankees. Personally, a great thing for baseball. He should have been gone a long time ago. Disgrace to baseball. Yankees should have had the pride to let him go.
Another interesting personnel thing for baseball. Tim Tebow is actually trying out for baseball here pretty soon. I believe it's on the 30th that he is doing his tryout. So that should be fun. We'll see if anybody picks him up if he's as good as they think he is.
I mean, Michael Jordan tried it. It was utter failure. But you know what? Tim Tebow is a great football player, no matter what the NFL thinks. I think, if he puts his mind to it, he can do it in baseball. And hopefully he won't be as persecuted in baseball as he was in
And
football.
from what I hear, he's just kind of an athlete overall, and really, he played some baseball in the past, is what I've heard as well. And a lot of times that's what those baseball teams are looking for. They're just looking for athletes. And back in the old days, they would pick up tennis players, they'd pick up track stars, they pick up whoever they get who can be athletic and make great plays on defense, and if they can, do well on offense. So.
Definitely. All right, so I think we should segue now to college football. Sort of do a little preseason look at some of the teams that are in the top 25, maybe outside the top 25, that we think are teams to watch this year, or maybe teams that are overrated. So I'll start with Texas. Some big things are happening for Texas this year. Gerard Hurd, who played quarterback most of last year because Tyron Stoops was injured, is actually moving to wide receiver. This has actually been tested. They tried it out in the spring game. And this is going to be very important, I think, for Texas' potential success this year. And we saw last year Gerard Hurd rushing had 561 rushing yards, 4 yards average per carry with 3 touchdowns. So he has success on the ground. And in the spring game, had a 50-yard completion. Definitely, I think, a good move by the new offensive coordinator, Gilbert. And I think he'll be a key to Texas' success this year. But the thing we really need to look at is true freshman quarterback Shane Buechele. Now, this is very important.
No, hang on. Let's take a moment. Let's appreciate this name. Buechele.
Yes. Yes. So Shane showcased in one half of football in the spring game 299 yards, 2 touchdowns, and as I said, the 50-yard pass to Hurd. Now, this is very important. Many are thinking that he will get the start against Notre Dame. And I think this is a good move. I think Tyron Stoops should be moved to maybe a fullback. He's a big guy and definitely good. And we know Shane's a champion because he was born after his father had a vasectomy. So he already won one championship. He's going to win another. He's going to be good for Texas. Texas last year went 5-7, big wins against Oklahoma and Baylor. In Texas' first game against number 10 Notre Dame at home, I think it's going to be a different game than last year. I think Texas got this, and Kirk Herbstreit is having some love for my Longhorns. This is a very important year for them.
I just got to make one comment. With that impressive birth story, that man should have been a track star. He is good at winning races, I guess.
I guess, yes.
Wow.
But Texas, bright team to watch this year out of the Big 12. All right, can you do your first team to watch?
The first team I picked, obviously, it's a team that if you've been watching anything at all, they've been talked about almost nonstop. It's LSU. They've got a new defensive coordinator. He's changing the scheme up to a 3-4. The sophomore outside linebacker, Arden Key, he says that he expects to get 20 sacks and 2 pick sixes. And he had 5 sacks last year, so he's got a chance to do better. I don't know if he's gonna increase his sack numbers by four, or 4 times what he had, but he's definitely going to be a key role in that defense. Um, One thing to watch with LSU though, they're only 2-7 against the SEC West rivals in the last 3 years. So they've really got to step that up if they want to be a contender. But they have talent all across the board, and many expect them to be a really tough team. They've got especially Leonard Fournette, their running back. He's a Heisman candidate, so should have a good ground game. And the other important thing about LSU, they have a tough schedule though. Just being in the SEC in general means you're going to have some tough schedules, and they really do. So especially that second half of the year, which is when you get starting to get some of those nagging injuries. You get kind of sometimes a little monotony in practice. So we'll see if they can keep it up down the stretch.
Yeah, definitely, and hopefully for LSU, they don't have to worry about this constant banter about is Les Miles on the hot seat, is he not? I think they have something to prove this year, and I think they will. So my next team to watch is number 15, Houston. Houston, we saw last year. They ended up going to the Peach Bowl against number 9 Florida State and beating them 38-24 for a team out of the American Conference who is definitely overlooked for the conference they play in and the schedule they play. Definitely turned some heads last year. And I think their key to success is their coach, Tom Herman. He decided to stay. There were plenty of openings for different coaching positions at better schools, better conferences, but he decided to stay in Houston. Definitely a very good young coach. They went 13-1 last year with big wins against number 21 Memphis, number 15 Navy, and number 22 Temple. And these were all towards the end of their season. They start their season September 3rd against number 3 Oklahoma. So we will definitely see if they are the team from last year or they are nothing like last year. But I think this first game will be a true tale for Houston. But I think definitely watch out for this team. This team, I feel, will end the season in the top 10 this season. I feel they knock off Oklahoma.
Talk about trial by fire opening up against, I think Oklahoma's number 3.
Yep.
And so, it doesn't really get much tougher than that. So
yeah, and and one more thing about Houston, they scored so much that their 3 kickers combined for 114 points. That's extra points, field goals in total. 46 rushing touchdowns, 22 passing touchdowns. This team had it all. They had the defense, they had the offense.
Well, that quarterback was a star.
Yes.
I remember watching him in that bowl game, and he is just an app. He was running, he was making good throws, doing everything you want a quarterback to do, and he was just fabulous. Come be on my team, Mr. Quarterback.
Yeah. So Houston, definitely team to watch.
Okay. My next team is Michigan State. They only face 3 top 25 teams, but all those teams are all in the top 10. So they have, Big Ten isn't always regarded as the most prestigious conference. So I think that's probably about as solid a schedule as you can get. Tyler O'Connor is going to get his first shot at starting quarterback after Connor Cook, who started the last 3 years. So interesting to see how they're doing. But he's got a great cast of wide receivers. A bunch of them are true freshmen, and they're going to be expected to step up. The other freshmen that are going to be expected to step up are going to be on the defensive line. They got a bunch of them coming in. But I think the other thing that gives Michigan State a real advantage is just Mark D'Antino. He is in my opinion, one of the best coaches in college football. He's got the right mindset. He's tough and smart. He's brilliant, and I think they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Definitely, Mark D'Antonio, it doesn't matter if he's got no talent or all the talent. He always makes his teams win. So definitely always a team to watch out for. I don't think they'll have as good a season as they did last season, but definitely a team to watch for. So the next team I want to cover is number 17, Iowa. Iowa last year had an amazing season. A lot of people said, they didn't play anybody, and it sort of showed when they lost to Michigan State by 3 points in the Big Ten championship, and then when they played Stanford in the Rose Bowl, they just got blown out. We saw in that game though that it was more just the defense could not stop Christian McCaffrey, and we didn't really think they would. But I do think Iowa is a team that you have to watch out for in the Big Ten. Quarterbacks returning, a lot of players returning, a lot of key players. I think they have another great season in their schedule once again. Doesn't really look too great. But if you look at team stats from last year, they were scoring about 32.1 points average, and a lot of those points were scored early on in the season when they were playing not too tough teams. But their defense only allowed 18.5 points average. Definitely in some games they allowed way more than that. But they showed against Michigan State, even though they lost, they only lost by 3. Michigan State only scored 16 points. So definitely a team to watch for. I'm not sure if it's not going to be another 12-win season, but definitely a team that will contend in the Big Ten and have a good year.
Well, let's keep going in the Big Ten here. I got Ohio State. Their schedule is about as tough as Michigan State's, but only 2 of their 3 top 25 teams are in the top 10, and they've just got crazy amounts of talent all over the place. Uh, Literally all over the place. I can't even really go into it because they have so much talent. But they're only returning 6 starters, so they're going to be a very inexperienced team. They're a big question mark. They really didn't have the toughest schedule last year, and they almost lost to a couple of teams that really aren't so great. So it would be an interesting team to watch. They could be really fantastic, or they could be just kind of average, or they could be overhyped and not be as good as people think that they are. So interesting to watch them.
Something about Ohio State. I think they'll be a good team. Yeah, they got that talent, but any team that is under Urban Meyer obviously gets big hype. I think maybe a little overrated this season. Urban Meyer's a great coach, and I'm not taking anything away from him, but he likes to prop up his teams. I think they'll have a very surprising loss some point in this season, and I don't think they're going to be able to stand with a lot of teams. They'll have a good season. They'll make a decent bowl, but they will not be contending for a championship this year. So let's also stay in the Big Ten and cover number 7 Michigan. Jim Harbaugh is the key here. He's been making big headlines everywhere he goes about satellite camps and all these recruits that he's got. If you look at last year in his first season, they went 10-3. They had some big wins. They beat BYU when BYU was hype. They just shot BYU. It was just a huge blowout. But then they had losses against Utah, first game of the season. So it was a first game for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. So wasn't too big of a deal. But then they lost to number 7 Michigan State, number 8 Ohio State. I don't think that's going to happen again this year.
Well, they're playing them at home this year, so
right. And the thing is the big games they got this year, they played number 12 Michigan State, number 17 Iowa, and number 8 Ohio State. Jim Harbaugh's going to have this team ready. I feel this is a team that is going to contend for a national title. Jim Harbaugh doesn't disappoint. He's an amazing coach. They start their season out September 3rd against Hawaii. Will be a huge blowout. Hawaii is just going to get slaughtered. Michigan's going to have an amazing season. Definitely a team to watch. Will, I feel, be in the playoffs.
Well, and also go back to the year before last year, and they really did not have a great year. And Jim Harbaugh comes in. It's very rare, especially in college, for a coach to come in his first year make such an improvement as Jim Harbaugh did. And I think part of that's just the experience he had in the NFL. He got his team to the Super Bowl, and that is pretty rare of a feat in and of itself. And then to come back to college and do what he did with Michigan, it's just incredible. He's really a tough coach. Really they are gonna be good this year for sure. You know what? I see nothing wrong with staying in the Big Ten. So Nebraska, this is what you've been waiting for. Last year, their offense, a lot of people watching it, they thought the offense wasn't really that great. The numbers would tell you different. They averaged about 447 yards a game, and whenever they ran for over 200 yards, they were 4-0. So the run game is going to be huge, and hopefully Mike Riley will do some run game and not just do little screen passes to the side that get 5 yards and that's it. Especially in that UCLA game, nobody really expected Nebraska to put up a fight, and they just kept pounding the ball and pounding the ball and pounding and pounding and pounding, and that is what won them that game. So hopefully, if they come out and they run the ball well, they're going to be actually probably pretty tough, I think.
And looking at Nebraska, last season, seeing how Mike Riley would run the team, losing in shocking fashion to BYU, losing games that they should not have lost. Um, I don't see much change coming, unfortunately for Husker fans. But the only thing is, obviously a terrible thing happened with the loss of punter Sam Foltz in a tragic accident. Um, the only glimmer of hope in that is that definitely brought the Husker team together. Um, and so I think that's going to push them to really push in certain games, for him. I don't see the Huskers doing any better. At the best, I give them an 8-4 season. Unfortunately, Mike Riley. I think he is a decent coach, but I just don't think he is the right coach for Nebraska. I don't think he's the right coach in a Big Ten that is going to have huge players in it. Um, I feel like this will be Mike Riley's last season at Nebraska.
Wow.
Be-
Bold prediction.
Yes,
everybody.
this is a very bold prediction. I've been saying this since they hired him. I feel like he was the wrong choice for Nebraska for what they needed and for what they expect out of coaches. So I give Nebraska an 8-4 record. But unfortunately, I feel like this is Mike Riley's last season.
We have to remember too. A lot of those games that they lost, Nebraska never really did get blown out in any game. So that's one thing to keep in mind. They seem to lose always in the fourth quarter or on a last play, and a really heartbreaking fashion. So they've got some leeway here. They can just finish out games. They should be good, but that will be a little difficult with their defensive line. They lost 2 guys to the draft. 2 of them just left, and that's really tough. It's going to count on now sophomore Freedom Akinmaladun. I hope I pronounced that right. um, and we saw him play a little bit last year. As a freshman, he was pretty good, about as good as you can expect a freshman to be. Not super flashy, but really pretty solid. Watch for him to have a breakout year. Some interesting things about Nebraska though. They had a 70% touchdown ratio when they were in the red zone last year, and they only gave up 57%. And in the fourth quarter, they actually did outscore their opponents 141 to 117. It just wasn't enough to win enough games. But I'm gonna differ from you, Brian. You and all your negativity. I'm gonna say that Nebraska, steps up, and Big Ten is looking pretty tough this year. I don't know if they'll make it to a conference championship, but I expect a better bowl game than the Foster Farms Bowl. I think at least. I'm gonna say at least 9 wins, and obviously the biggest game on there that everybody's excited to watch is the Oregon game, and that will probably be one of the best tests for this Nebraska team.
Definitely, and just to show that I'm not all Mr. Negative on Nebraska.
Mr. Negativity.
I do agree with you that when Nebraska ran the ball and played that tough football, they had success. For Nebraska to have success, it can't be through the air and it can't be on petty screens every other play. They got to pound the ball. The way to win in the Big Ten is to play tough football. You got to get that other team wore down. And if Nebraska can do that, they'll be just fine. But my thing is I feel like the offense that Mike Riley and his offensive coordinator bring is not the same of such success. We will definitely see in the game opener, but I feel Nebraska can have a tough time this year.
Well, part of that is, Tommy Armstrong has just kind of got to step up. He can throw it a mile really, but he struggles sometimes with those medium range and short range passes with his accuracy. Now, one other interesting fact about Nebraska is they haven't been positive in the turnover ratio since 2009. So they need to get that turned around. And if they do, Tommy went to the Manning Passing Academy in the summer, so maybe he learned something about throwing it to people of your own jersey color. But if he comes back a lot stronger than he was, then I think he's really got a shot. He's got great legs. Just he's got a great arm too. He's just got to work on his decision making, and he's got to work on not overthrowing people. A lot of times you see him throw over his receivers' heads. So
Definitely, and the sort of last word on Nebraska, and Nebraska's worst enemy is themselves.
I will agree with that.
So now moving to the Pac-12, we look at number 8, Stanford. Christian McCaffrey was a Heisman contender last year and will be a Heisman contender this year.
He'll be a Heisman winner this year.
I hope so. I hope I agree with you. He's a junior, and we talked about this last year, but he had 337 attempts, over 2,000 yards, 6 yards average per carry, and 5 touchdowns. Stanford,
for you people who aren't numbers people, that's insane. That 4 yards per carry is considered really high.
Yeah.
And to have 6 is nuts.
Yeah. I mean, they went 12-2 last year with big wins over number 6 USC early on, number 18 UCLA, number 6 Notre Dame, number 20 USC. So they played USC twice, and then they just blew out number 5 Iowa, as we talked about earlier.
Because Iowa shouldn't have been ranked number 5.
Well, that's a discussion for another time. But their losses last year were unranked Oregon and unranked Northwestern. After that Northwestern game, a lot of people, including myself, thought Stanford was overrated. Their season was done. They came back and proved something, and it's all because of McCaffrey. I feel McCaffrey is so instrumental to their success. If he has another year like he did the past year, Stanford has no problem being a contender for that national title. And a great team, a tough team to stop, and a tough running back to stop.
I'm going to throw out another name up there, a guy we went to high school with, Harrison Phillips. Yes. And if he can come back strong from his knee injury, which was a pretty severe injury, and he got a medical red shirt out of it, if he can come back good, then he'll be a force on defense. In high school, at least, he played a lot of defensive end. I think in college he was playing a little more D tackle because they were pretty strong on the ends there. But watch for him. I will certainly be watching for him. And so, yeah, I guess that'll take us to my next team. Going to the ACC, I'm talking about Clemson. They only have 2 top 25 teams in their schedule, but so it's not the best, but last year, they averaged 38.5 points per game, and they were the runner-ups in the national championship. So they were a force on offense, and they've got 8 returning starters. So watch for their offense to be really good again. But the thing is they lost 8 starters as well on defense. And so 2 years ago, they were the number 1 defense, and then they lost 9 starters, and then they were the number 10 defense, which is really impressive. So let's see if losing 8 more, now you've got a really young team and, a pretty inexperienced defense. So maybe they'll be really good. Obviously, that defensive coordinator has shown that he can do some good work. So maybe they'll be really good. Maybe they won't be. It's kind of a question mark right now.
Right. And, and when we watched them in the national title, they looked pretty good, but the problem came down to the offense couldn't stay on the field long enough and score enough points. But the biggest thing was the defense could not stop the running game of Alabama, and that's going to be an issue for them. Something they have to get over. Especially with only playing 2 ranked teams right now in their schedule, could change to as the top 25 changes. The fact of the matter is, Clemson has got to realize that they really got to get tough on the run game, and when they're playing a tough team, they got to be able to score more points. I had them winning the national title, and it just came down to being able to stop that run game, and they could not do it.
Well, and coming back this year, I think they also got something to prove. Being number 2, I think they're not happy with that. I think their coach isn't happy with that. I think that they're gonna make a push. They're gonna try as best they can to get that national championship.
Definitely. All right, so my next team, I'm staying in the Pac-12, looking at number 20 USC. Last year the team was clouded by Steve Sarkisian, his mishap with his drinking at practice, at alumni events, just a real mess, and it really messed up the team. Um, now they have Clay Helton, who did a really good job as an interim coach. He's a really good coach. They have Max Browning as quarterback now. He's very, very inexperienced. In 2015, he only had 12 attempts, completed 8 of them for 113 yards. He has very little experience. This is going to definitely be interesting
From
for
a
USC.
from a small sample size, though. I mean, so take this with a grain of salt. That ain't bad.
No,
That's pretty solid. So maybe they'll be okay. I think.
I don't know.
But it is a small sample size.
Definitely,
So
they're gonna be a young team, but something I've seen for many years now with USC, and something I still feel very strongly on. They're overrated. They should not have been even put in the top 25 for reasons such as, they're such a young team. There's nothing looking at USC that tells me they deserve to be in the top 25. They still have to rebuild from sanctions years ago. And their first game is September 3rd against Alabama. They're going to get crushed, just annihilated. I understand these preseason polls and they don't really matter, but the fact of the matter is USC should not start in the top 25 until they can prove in the season that they deserve it. They didn't prove it last year, and so I don't completely understand why they're in the top 25. And we're going to see on September 3rd the reason they should not be.
All right, I got one more team to talk about as the video is starting to run a little long here, and that's Florida State, still in the ACC. Their schedule difficulty is, it's about average. It's okay, but their defense lost almost all of their starters in general are returning. So they're going to have really good experience. They've got great depth at wide receiver and running back. They have a guy named Auden Tate, who's 6'5" and apparently is great at making acrobatic catches. Who does that sound like to me? That sounds like Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson is about 6'5", 6'6", was fast, great catches, great hands. That's the kind of guy that I mean, nobody's really compared him to Auden Tate, but just reading the way that he's described, it sounds a lot like that's what jumps into my mind when I read about it. But last year their defense only gave up 17.5 points per game. Look for that defense to be really strong again. Like as I said, almost all of their starters are returning. They're going to be a force that I don't think a lot of people are going to see coming.
All right, so now we're just going to go over our who we think is going to win the Power 5 conferences. So we'll start in the Big 12. I feel like the winner of the Big 12 comes down to the Red River rivalry. I see Texas as a sleeper this year. As I said, a lot of positive things going on for them. New offensive coordinator. The defense is going to be more experienced this year, not so young. I have Texas winning the Big 12. Other top teams to watch for are Oklahoma, TCU, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State. The usual teams to watch for in the Big 12, but I think Texas got it this year.
I call bias from a Texas fan, and I'm going to say Oklahoma wins the Big 12. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't win. I think they're the strongest team in that conference by far.
We'll find out. Now going to the Big 10. I think this all comes down to who's done better in the offseason. And I feel like Michigan will win the Big 10. Jim Harbaugh, in his first season alone, turned a team around and had them win 10 games. I feel they win the Big 10. Other top teams to watch for are Iowa.
Come on, Brian.
Iowa, Ohio State, and Michigan State. Some sleeper teams to watch for are unranked Wisconsin and Penn State. Watch for those teams to possibly have a breakout season.
I'm going to agree with you here on Michigan. Like you said, I think Harbaugh is going to just take it to the next level here in his second year. And in terms of Wisconsin, I hope that they're not good. I don't like Wisconsin at all. So hopefully they're very, very bad and win 0 games. Sorry, Wisconsin fans who are watching.
All right, so then looking at the Pac-12, This all comes down to Heisman candidates and Christian McCaffrey. I have Stanford winning. The other top teams to watch for are UCLA, Utah, and California. Watch for those teams. I feel like disappointing teams out of the Pac-12 this year. USC, as I stated, and I feel like Oregon's going to be a disappointment this year.
Well, Utah came right out of the gates last year, and we're looking to really, be a surprising team, and then just kind of didn't keep it up in the end of the year. But I'm going to agree with you that Stanford goes ahead and takes it, but certainly watch out for Utah. I would agree with that as well.
All right, now looking at the SEC, I feel like Alabama's always a good team. Nick Saban always brings it, but I feel like the team that has to prove it is a team that you covered. LSU, I have winning the SEC. They have something to prove. Les Miles has got to prove that he can bring this team back after all the rumors that they were going to fire him, which I thought were insane in the first place. Teams to watch for: Florida, Auburn. The big team that's been coming up the last couple of years, and a team that it's about time for them to break through. Watch for Tennessee. I feel like Tennessee's going to upset some teams this year. So Tennessee's definitely a team to watch for. Maybe a contender in the SEC, but definitely is going to have a really good season. And watch for Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
People were saying that about Tennessee last year as well, and it didn't really pan out the way they were expecting back then either. So we'll see. Not really the boldest pick for me here. I am going to go with Alabama. I don't like that I'm picking Alabama. I hate myself inside for it. But I just don't see anybody beating them. They're a powerhouse. They've been a powerhouse for a long time, and I think they're just going to keep it up.
All right. Now looking at the ACC, I feel Clemson has another good year. Florida State has another good year. But the fact of the matter is there was a team last year that I really liked watching, and a team that it's about time they break out. And, they had a lot of suspensions or a lot of sanctions the last couple of years. It's time for them to win. I have North Carolina winning the ACC. They played tough against Clemson in the ACC championship game. Another team to watch for out of the ACC, a possible sleeper team, is Miami. First-year coach Mark Richt has taken them over. He was at Georgia previously. I feel like he's the right guy to possibly turn Miami around. There's a lot of problems there that need to be fixed, but if anybody can do it, I feel like he can. But definitely North Carolina wins the ACC.
I think not definitely North Carolina wins the ACC. I think FSU definitely wins the ACC. Like I said, they're going to have great depth. They're going to have pretty much all their starters returning. I think that they're kind of hungry after not doing as well as I think they would have liked last year, and I think they're gonna bring it, and I think they're gonna take it.
All right, well, that really covers it for college football, but definitely something I hope you got out of this. This is going to be a crazy year. There's going to be, the normal teams on top, but there are going to be some other teams that will be creeping through. Definitely a season to watch. Going to be a lot of upsets as usual. Something to definitely pay attention to.
All right, not going to cover the NFL this week. Still got another week of preseason football before we'll get into all that stuff. Didn't really meet our time goal like we had hoped, but sometimes that's just the way it goes with all this setting up teams and picking and all that stuff.
But as we said before, comment on the videos, like us on Facebook, Twitter. Let us know what else we need to do. Like we said, we are going to make some improvements, try to make this a lot better. Spread the word, get us more views. The more views we get, the better that we can do on our end.
Also, liking the videos helps out a lot. Subscribing is going to help out a lot. We're going to try to, if we start picking up a little following here, we're gonna try to, keep doing things that's going to try to make the videos better than they were last year in season 1, which wasn't as consistent as we would have liked. We're going to try to be better about that this year. Still got some crazy schedules this year, but we're going to try to make it work. Try to pump out at least 2 videos a week if we can, and I think that wraps it up for that.
And our goal is to make sports broadcasting great again.
Yeah, On my grind all day, gonna make $1 million selling that someday. You know I'm in the building when I write this way. Put me in the pound when I bite this game, bitch, I'm an animal, eating these rappers, I swear I'm a cannibal. About to fulfill all my dreams, I'm a fiend. I've been plotting and scheming, this shit is obscene. I rise on fleek, what in the fuck does all that even mean? Seems like we're scared of how others perceive, but let me be straight up, this shit is for me. Me, this shit is for me. Bitch, verbatim, working all day, these games I'm playing. Killing every shitty rapper, motherfucker slam. Let them all know I'm about to win it when they bum my shit right now. Right now. Ain't nobody fucking around town right now. Ain't nobody fucking with the sound right now. Ain't nobody fucking around town my shit right now. Right now. Ain't nobody fucking around town right now. Ain't nobody fucking with the sound right now. Ain't nobody fucking around town my shit right now. Yeah. Right now. Yeah. On my grind all day, rap so good, but I get so paid. I ain't from the hood, but I've had bad days, so I smoke all day to avoid all the pain. Management said I should sound OG.
Right about the time your homie OD. Here, we bought you a whole bag of weed, so you could sell loud and sound so motherfucking
goddamn high. All I do is smoke and I write these lines. Schooling good grades where I fell behind. Picking up the piece of paying back my time. Do I really wanna get this high? Do I really wanna write these rhymes? Do I really wanna be a fucking sellout? Do I really wanna take that route? Hell nah, I'm just paying my dues. Getting that check so I can out on dues. Gotta get paid so I can pay my rent. So let me get a snapback, a chain, let me get it right now. Right now. Ain't nobody fucking around town right now. Ain't nobody fucking with the sound right now. Ain't nobody fucking around town my shit right now. Right now. Ain't nobody fucking around town right now. Ain't nobody fucking with the sound right now. Ain't nobody fucking around town my shit right now.
Right now. Right now. Right now. Yo. Right now, right now, right now, yeah, yeah, right now, yeah, right now. All right, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, and yeah.